You're tuned in to The Dr. Kinney Show, and I'm your host, Dr. Erin Kinney, a naturopathic doctor and speaker dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of your body and guiding you back into balance. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Dr. Kinney Show. This week, I'm really pleased to have with me Lauren Sambataro and Renee Belz. They are the Biohacking Babes, and Lauren is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and Renee is a certified nutritional consultant and holistic lifestyle coach. And they're going to share with us their story and kind of their amazing tips on how you can use biohacking to, well, hack your life. And we're going to chat a little bit about using biohacking to help with feeling overwhelmed, which I know is a feeling that a lot of us women get all of the time. I have it often, and it's so amazing to have tools that you can have in your toolbox that are pretty much, a lot of them are just available out there, but we'll talk about some of their cool ones as well. So thank you guys so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
So you guys want to share your story? You can tell me kind of like, how did you guys get into biohacking? What led you here?
Yeah, we always give credit to our dad. We call him the OG biohacker. So he was biohacking in the 80s when we were kids, and he had all kinds of cool technology like PEMF and low-level laser, which is now called red light therapy. And he overall really just had a very curious mindset. He's a biological dentist, so he's always been kind of a few steps ahead in his practice and understanding of medicine and health. And so a lot of that filtered down to us. We didn't quite understand it as kids, but as we got older and had our own health problems, I had a couple rounds of burnout. Renee had her own chronic fatigue and heavy metal issues, and she can share more. I'll let her do that. But we'll kind of just circle back and remembered that curiosity mindset, and that there would always be, another answer. Conventional medicine often tells us no, or shuts the door, or says like, there's nothing wrong with you, or we can't help you. And so we learned very early on from our dad, like, keep looking for answers, keep being curious. And most importantly, like, figure out what's right for you. Of course, this is not new to your audience. There's no one size fits all. So we have to keep seeking answers.
Yeah. Just to add a little bit. So yeah, I also experienced burnout after college, but it was interesting. Actually, I was go, type A, kind of a stressed out personality. And I got mono, and it put me in bed for like 6 months and just never really fully recovered. I was sleeping 13, 14 hours a day. Finally, I go to my doctor. They run some labs. They say, your labs are normal. I know a lot of people listening have probably heard that. Your labs are normal. Just keep sleeping. And I was like, that doesn't seem like the best solution. So I went back to our mom and dad, who have been in the holistic space for now over 40 years. And they helped me kind of put the puzzle pieces together. I started talking to different practitioners in the holistic health space. I went back on my master's in nutrition, just kept exploring. And it wasn't one thing. Like, of course, the mono was kind of the final, I guess, the pinnacle of, you need to take care of your body. That was like the wake up call for me. But it was, I had mercury toxicity. It was Epstein-Barr, poor circadian rhythm, was sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, a lot of issues. So this journey has really taught me it's not usually one thing for people. And I want people to just be open-minded to exploring other things could be causing your health issues. And it's not going to be like that one pill or one quick fix that's going to get you better. You probably have to address all of the things. So it's been a journey.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is hearing from my guests what, like, their story that got them to doing what they're doing. It's interesting, Renee, your story is kind of similar to mine. I had a major burnout episode in my early 20s, and I had mono as a teenager, was really, really sick, missed like 6 months of school. And I think it probably reactivated in my early 20s. I was, really stressful work environment, got extremely depressed. And, I went to my GP, and he was like, oh, here's some Wellbutrin, here's a prescription for something, like, you're just depressed. And I left feeling really disheartened, like, wow, you're not going to even ask me anything about my nutrition or, what is my sleep level? He asked me no questions. And I ended up going to see a naturopathic doctor, which has kind of piqued my interest in this. And, I had become a vegan. So all my nutrient levels were super low. My iron was low. My B12 was low. I'm also blood type O, which does not do well being vegan diet. And I don't know how you guys feel about vegans, but I'm not a big fan of vegans. I feel like animal protein is really important for most people. But for me, like, treating my adrenals was kind of the most important thing, but there were so many aspects that I really needed to work on. Right. And so I really loved your point that, that there's not always necessarily one magic bullet, right? There's going to be several things that you need to be focused on. And I think sometimes people struggle with that. Even I see in the functional medicine space or in the biohacking where people want the one thing. They're like, what's the one magic answer? This is going to solve all my problems. And it's like, well, I would love for there to be, but usually it's, you got to have all your basics covered, right? You got to have the sleep's got to be intact. You have to get your light. You have to have your diet intact. We've got to have something that you're passionate about. You've got to fill all of those things, right? First, because if you're not doing that, then it's going to be really hard for the physical body to make any changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have to do all of those things and not be stressed too, right?
Yes.
So we have to, I think we have to address mindset first and foremost. First question is, do you even believe that healing is possible for you? What is your idea around health and healing? A lot of people have unresolved trauma that creates these narratives that for a lifelong, they are seeking problems or kind of stuck in this cycle. So that's always step one. Do you believe that this is right for you? Can it be possible? And then, covering the basics, as you said, but as simple as possible, because biohacking is really awesome. There's a lot of amazing tech that makes the power of nature harness in your home more easily accessible and efficient. But a lot of that from a financial perspective may not be accessible for people. And also it will fill hours of your day quite quickly.
Yes.
So we need to pare
Yes.
back. We got to pare back and just adopt simple practices. It seems so simple, but it's if we want to lower inflammation and support our cells and our mitochondria and have better gut health, just getting outside in the sunshine does all of those things, and people think, oh, I don't know, I don't have time for that. Well, you're going to find time to fix your health at some point. So we might as well on the front end find time for sunshine.
Yeah. I love that. It's probably one of my favorite recommendations for people. Well, my two favorite are get time outside, particularly in the early morning, right? So you can get that morning sunlight without sunglasses or without shade, because you want that light to kind of help reset the circadian rhythm. And then two, I tell everyone to take a 10-minute, I call it either taking your toes up or getting horizontal. Just lay down for 10 minutes in the middle of the day as a little mini reset. It's like a recharge. You can do it for free. You can do that anywhere, right? If it's raining outside, if the weather's not great, you can always take 10 minutes, and it's just 10 minutes. It's not an hour. I think I teach this stress workshop, and one of my kind of things that I go over is that people get stressed about managing their stress. They're like, oh my God, but I got to get a massage and I got to do this and they get so stressed out about the time it's going to take. And I think this maybe comes up in biohacking too. You're like, well, I sometimes feel this way. I'm like, oh, I got my lymphatic drainage device. I've got my red light therapy. I've got my brain tap. But I can't do all these in one day because then I wouldn't have any time to do anything else. So it's learning to find the tools for that day, maybe, right? I don't know. Maybe you guys can speak to this. When you're working with someone, and you're trying to figure out what's the best thing for them, how do you help them navigate through that?
Yeah, I think number one is stacking can be really helpful, and that you can stack the free biohacks, you can stack the expensive biohacks, but that's going to make it more efficient. So let's take nature, for example. When you go outside, can you get your feet on the earth? Can you get fresh air? Can you get sunshine? And maybe you do some breath work, all free. Can you do those all in 5 minutes? That's an amazing stack. For me, devices, if I'm having a really stressful day, my priority is the brain tap and a PEMF. You can stack those. So even, I love what you said, even just 5 to 10 minutes. And side tangent here is you will be more productive and energized and happy if you take a little bit of downtime. And I was the type of person that thought the more productive you are, the better person you are, the more successful you will be. I was definitely in that mindset, which led to the burnout, of course. But now I actually do 30 minutes every day. 5 to 10 minutes is great. But for me, 30 minutes is my sweet spot. If I can do the brain tap and PMF, it's I'm starting a second day in the afternoon because I feel so refreshed. So that's if I'm really stressed out, if I'm tired, that's a priority. If you're feeling really good and you're hey, I just want to do some extra biohacks. Yeah, maybe you jump on your rebounder, you do your red light therapy, you do your sauna, but maybe just pick one thing. And that's your biohack of the day. Don't feel like you need to do all of them because, we don't want to be biohacking 10 hours a day.
Yeah. I mean, you could. It might be fun, but it would be a lot. Well, then there's some argument where you could maybe do too much, like cold plunging, for example. You could possibly, spend a little too much time in a cold plunge and, stress your system out a little bit more. So I think there does have to be some moderation, even with some of the, obviously outside, you're never going to need to moderate that. Spend as much time outside as possible. But I think some of the, other things you could probably moderate some. Maybe, actually, this would be great. Can you guys just list let's maybe list some of the like free natural biohacks and then list some of the devices for people that are listening that are maybe new to this term biohacking. I think most of my listeners are aware of it, but if there's someone listening that isn't, could you guys kind of give us a little overview?
Sure. So endless technology, kind of a range, a spectrum of pricing and kind of financial investments. I just want to preface this with, I think there is a draw or desire to add a lot of things. And I think maybe a really awesome and perhaps should be the most popular biohack is removing things from our day. There's so much in our environment that is causing toxicity and stress to our cells, our mitochondria, our gut, including the supplements. There's a lot of, I know you talk about this on your show a lot, like there's a lot of bad supplements out there. And so before we add something in, maybe see if there's something that you can take out. That could be a biohack alone, is removing stress and toxicity from your system. But then some of our favorite like tech, Renee mentioned the brain tap, which I think, did you have Dr. Porter on your show?
I've had him on the show. So yeah. He's
we're supporting our brain waves, PEMF, which is basically grounding natural negative ions from the earth, which you get from being outside, but we can get a lot more times the power and do it inside in the comfort of our own homes. Sunshine free, grounding free, being in nature, being in the forest where there are trees and dirt and leaves, or the beach where there's sand and natural elements. Renee, jump in, but red light therapy, of course, we harness the power of the sun at the right times of day where we get red light, red waves.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would just add to that the D-Minder app. Is so great. It's a free app. I know that now they just started running some ads on there, but you can still use it for free. But that's a great way to see what is the best time of day to go outside. Am I actually getting vitamin D depending on where in the country you live? So that's easy and free for sunshine. I would add to the nature thing, something else that's really interesting is the impact on your gut microbiome. So again, people are taking pounds and pounds of probiotics that we don't know, are they actually doing anything for your gut? But being in nature and touching nature, the leaves and the dirt is amazing. And I think it's really cool. We see this with the Hudson tribe. Everyone was like, oh, they're eating like 100 pounds of vegetables. That's why their gut is so good. And they're thinking, actually, it's because they're eating off the ground. They're using their fingers. They're eating off the ground. They're not cleaning things. So like, that's a different thought of like, oh, let's clean everything and then take a probiotic supplement. It's like, maybe if we can get back to nature a little bit more. And that's just one example. But yeah, forest bathing, if you haven't experienced that, do that and tell me you don't feel amazing after.
Yeah, we dare you.
Yeah, we dare you. Let me know.
Yeah, with produce, it's tricky. It's getting harder and harder to be a food consumer, of course, because the food industry is so against us. So if you go to the grocery store, everything is genetically modified, sprayed with herbicides and pesticides. So like if you want to eat a carrot that has dirt on it, you're going to have to find a local farm and get to know that farmer and trust it. And then you don't have to rinse it to pieces when you get home. Maybe you can have some of the microbes with your carrots at the end of the day. Yeah. But it really takes that extra mile or step to get to know where your food is coming from. And it's hard, I know, because they're just like stuffing more and more chemicals, natural flavors, canola oils, like adulterated seed oils. It's so tough.
It's really tough. I was lucky to travel to Europe a couple times this year, and you feel so much better after eating there. Like you eat out in Europe and you feel like you've cooked a home meal. I came back to the States. I'm like, wow, I hate eating out. Like even if you go to like a restaurant where you think you know where things are from, you don't feel good afterwards, and you just don't know, right? You don't know where it's from. You don't know what kind of oils they're using. It's getting harder and harder, I think, to be an American and especially to be an American who's interested in health, who's kind of going down this biohacking path and without growing your own food. I think that's kind of where we're all going to have to get to, is you've got to grow your own food or know exactly where it's coming from.
Yeah. Italy knows how to do it Europe, because they use, they have ancient grains, they soak and sprout, and they don't put glyphosate on their wheat. It's like such a novel approach.
They ban so many more chemicals. Yeah, it's the glyphosate. Oh, that could be a whole other episode to talk about that. It's really interesting. I'm about to go on a family vacation with a lot of my family are medical doctors. And I feel like 10 years ago, I would talk about what I'm doing and I would talk about being gluten-free. And they're like, oh my God, Erin's crazy. But now we've just been emailing about diet restrictions. And like 4 of the people were like, oh, I've developed a gluten sensitivity. I'm like, oh, yep, there you go. But so many people are developing gluten sensitivities. And I get this question from my patients, like, why is that? I used to eat this all the time when I'm a kid. well, I don't think it really is the gluten. Gluten really doesn't have that many problems with it. But when you spray poison on it, the body's not going to like that, right? Nobody wants to ingest poison. And
and our
it
nuts are messed up,
and
and our buckets are full.
Yeah. And we think about what it does, I think offline we were talking a little bit about like cellular detoxing. I mean, you get a poison like that in your cells, your body's going to spend all of its time focusing on getting rid of that, which means it's not going to be focused on making your hair pretty or your skin look good or making hormones or detoxing your liver or, right? Like I always think of the body, I use this analogy, like the body is like a house, in that house, you've got your kitchen and your living room and your laundry room. And those are like your major organs, right? And I use this for weight loss a lot when people come in and they're like, I don't know why I'm not losing weight. I'm like, well, to the body, the weight you want to lose is like a basement closet that's filled with junk. It's not super important to the body, right? The body is really going to be focused on your organs. Is the kitchen, working properly? Is the laundry room working? Is the bathroom? All those vital functioning parts of the house. And so, if you're consuming a bunch of toxins, it's like bringing a junkyard in and like filling it in all the rooms. And the body's like, well, in order to keep the kitchen clean, I got to get this junk out of here, which means you're definitely not going to be cleaning out that closet, right? It's always, I like that analogy because people are like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I think the more things that your body has coming at it, the harder it's going to be for the body to do these extra things that you want it to do. It's like, well, it's focusing on just keeping it, functioning and alive and working properly. So
it is.
There's a lot of things our bodies have to deal with, right? Our bodies are very busy these days. We got a lot of things to detox out and a lot of things and all the stress. I mean, I think a lot of us underestimate what the last 3 or 4 years have done to ourselves, right? Like the pandemic it was stressful. I don't care who you were, what was going on. Like it was a level of stress none of us had really ever experienced. And I think that I'm still seeing a lot of fallout in a lot of my patients. They're like, well, that was a couple of years ago. I'm like, yeah, but your body is still struggling with, that intense level of stress for 2+ years. I don't know if you guys are seeing similar things, but I talk to my colleagues a lot and it's like, yep, everyone's still kind of falling apart from that.
Yeah. I see like a lot of people's buckets totally spilled over, whether they got COVID or not, or the vaccine, whatever. It's like everything kind of came to a head in those few years.
Yes. But and think about how much time we were on screens, we were all inside, we weren't getting any. I mean, I think another like free biohack is social interaction, right? Is, getting oxytocin, cuddling with your pet, cuddling with your partner, sex. Like there's a lot of other, like, those are great biohacks as well. I constantly write on my treatment plans for patients, like, have more sex, and whether that's with yourself or a partner, like you really need, like, orgasms are so important. Oxytocin is an amazing hormone. And, I think in that time, if you were single during the pandemic and living by yourself, missing out on that human connection, on that human touch was really hard. Right? Like, I mean, yes, we could get connection. Like we're sitting here talking over a screen, but it's not the same as if we were to be in person. And
You have to find your tribe.
Yeah, you have to find your tribe. I was seeing your plant in the background, and I feel like the only thing that have you read those studies where just looking at plants actually does help to like modulate cortisol levels? Yeah. So you can get that part of nature, a little bit of that without actually being in nature. It's way better when you're actually in the forest. Yes, it looks great. I have mine's over here too. I always have a plant in every space. But I wish I don't know what'd you say?
I wish I could. My cats eat every plant I bring in.
Oh no.
Doesn't matter what it is. Even if it's cat safe, they'll eat it and then they throw it up. So I know Lauren has said I need to get some hanging plants. That's a project. I need to just literally hang them.
Hanging plants are great. You can get those like spider plants and they kind of like hang down a little bit. They're kind of fun.
Yeah. My cats will probably find a way to jump up there somehow.
Well, you have your cat. It's great to have an animal. It's a good biohack, the animal, the animal companions. Yeah.
So much oxytocin. They're the best.
Yes. So much. So, I was just thinking of some other like biohacks that I lately have been recommending to patients. We talked about like human connection, like sauna and like cold plunge or water therapy, I think could be another really cool thing that can be free, right? You can you can use hot cold therapy in your shower, which I think could be super cool. Obviously cold plunges are fantastic.
We kind of joke I'm the sauna queen and Lauren's the cold queen, the ice queen.
Got it.
That's like our preference. I love the sauna, but I think the sauna is one of the best investments when you're looking at all the biohacking tools. Even if you just get one of the pop-up saunas from like Therasage or something that's like maybe $1,000, you can put it away when you're not using it. I think getting your body to sweat at least every other day in something like a sauna, I think is great. Because again, we're talking about taking out the toxins. If we can sweat it out, that's so much less burden the body is having to, filter through other ways. I think that's one of the best investments. If you were going to buy something, I would put sauna at the top.
I think I would agree. I think it's a really good investment. And so I've actually been seeing a lot of people lately that come in and they tell me they can't sweat. They're like, I don't sweat. And I find sometimes saunas can be helpful for that. But do you have any other like tips or tricks for people that are really like struggling to sweat? So like I go exercise and I just don't sweat.
So that was me. Yeah. And Lauren, I'm sure you'll say like, is it a thyroid problem? Right.
Yeah. Well,
and
yes.
I think you even did a post recently about like low body temperature and what's going on. And I think that was my issue, why I couldn't sweat. Being religious about the sauna, I can now sweat. It's like better. I taught my body how to do it again. But I went years without sweating.
Oh my God.
How toxic was I?
I mean, I typically have found that it can be low body temperature from thyroid or adrenals. Sometimes it's they don't have enough electrolytes and they're like so severely dehydrated. And once we start replenishing electrolytes, it gets better. I've seen it like mold time. I mean, there's lots of different things. I was just wondering what other like hacks you guys would have. So obviously using the sauna and using it regularly, right? To like, it's like to teach the body to sweat.
Yeah, teach the body. And definitely looking at hydration and minerals. I think we're all screwed up with our relationship with water, right? Some people are still drinking out of plastic. Some people are drinking tap water. Some people filter the crap out of the water and then they don't remineralize. So like, are your cells getting hydrated? Does anybody really know about their own body? Are we actually getting hydration in? And minerals are insanely essential. And we just did a podcast that interviewed Barton Scott from Upgraded Minerals. So now we're like even more hyped on how essential they are. Like they just fuel every enzymatic reaction in the body. And of course we're walking around dehydrated because any toxicity, stress immediately depletes that. So we have to be giving our body more minerals. And if you're not sweating, yes, could be thyroid, but like, why is your thyroid dysregulated? Is it toxicity?
Yeah.
Is it nutrient deficiencies? Is your vagal tone stuck in sympathetic? I mean, there's so many reasons. So we have to keep going
many reasons,
as far upstream as possible, and maybe we don't get to the initial trigger, but we can kind of dissect everything that's in the bucket that's filling you up and causing stress in the body or causing autoimmunity, which is from many variables, right? And we like to talk a lot about biological dentistry. We're very passionate because our dad is a biological dentist. Like how many people have metals in their mouth, root canals, or have had extractions that weren't done properly, so they have low-level hidden infection that is not causing symptoms in the body? Like that's a massive interference for your healing. That can cause dehydration.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up the biological dentistry thing. I've had a few patients recently that have like every time they get dental work done, they get a UTI after. So I've been kind of like digging around and like found that there are some, but is that you're smiling like, like you're going to tell me something good. Like, and so I found a couple of things linking it. I mean, I feel like if you've got a heart condition, they're like, oh, let's give you antibiotics before, because we know that the bacteria can travel there. But I feel like actually my mom she's struggled with that and she keeps going to her dentist. She's like, I know that there's something connected. The dentist is like, no, you're crazy. And she's like, I know there's something up with it. So what can you tell me about that?
I don't know that I have an answer for a direct correlation, but there's some sort of imbalance in the body. So whether it's metal in the mouth that acts like a battery, every tooth lies on an energy meridian, which is connected to an organ, and any kind of extraction or work, anytime you drill in a tooth, you're creating an anaerobic space for bacteria to grow. And we're made of microbes, but many of us are being put in a bad relationship with microbes where they can take over. And that's when we have infection, right? Like microbes are not bad. Parasites are not bad. But if they are overgrowing because our body is out of balance and not getting what it needs because of stress and toxicity, then something like a UTI is expected. Should be,
Yeah. It's so interesting how it's like everything in the body is so connected. And I think that's Western medicine like misses that a lot. They're like, oh, no, we'll go see that other doctor for that. I don't deal with that. And you're like, wait, this is connected. How could it not be?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, finally, I think maybe 10 years ago, people started saying, oh, there is a connection between periodontal disease and heart and cardiovascular disease. But like we've known that for even longer. But now, periodontal disease is connected to Alzheimer's, dementia. It's like we are starting to branch out, but it's like, obviously it has an impact on everything. Like you had a good point about the antibiotics. Why would you even do that? There's no connection. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And
they just started to see it, right? They saw it enough times. They're like, well, we should probably give some prophylactic antibiotics in people that have endocarditis.
And then like the mercury fillings, when they take them out, they have to put them in a hazmat box and have them picked up and properly disposed of. But as long as it's in your mouth, it's safe.
So safe. Oh, so safe.
It's wild. It's so wild. But yeah, with the UTI, I would think it's possibly just pushing some kind of bacteria out, right?
Around.
I mean, the oral microbiome, I don't think people are talking about that enough. But you start just brushing or flossing or getting dental work, you're pushing things around.
Yeah.
Going to circulate into the body.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe.
And then, and if you've got an organ system somewhere that's already weaker, or you've got an immune system that's not quite right, or some other things going on, it's going to take up somewhere. So what do you guys recommend from that? Like, if someone is going to have dental work done, do you have some like recommendations pre and post? Like, if someone's going to go get like dental implants done and like to kind of protect from that kind of situation?
So because I'm doing a lot of cell detox with clients, hopefully they've kind of supported their cells and lowered inflammations where they're got ahead of that. Renee has done some work with my dad in creating nutrition plans, and there's definitely a protocol. You can speak to this, Renee, but like doing chelators ahead of time, like a cytodetox, and making sure we use binders strategically, doing like a vitamin C flush. Do you want to add to that, Renee?
Yeah. I would just add the point, like we hear this a lot from holistic patients, like, oh, I'll take care of my dental work once I'm healthy. And you can look at it both ways. Yes, you want to be supporting the body every way you can, right? Supporting the detoxification pathways, your gut health, your immune health before you go in and have the mercury fillings out, the root canals out, any teeth extracted. But at the same time, you're never going to get 100% healthy while you have those insults in your mouth. So you really should be working with, a naturopathic doctor or nutritionist, someone at the same time that you're working with a biological dentist. And please see a biological dentist. That is so, so important because, going to a traditional dentist, even if you're not getting like your mercury fillings out or something out, you're walking into an office that has mercury vapor everywhere. It's in the carpet, it's in the walls, it's in the furniture. You're inhaling that. They're also probably pushing fluoride treatment, which we wouldn't recommend. Our dad hasn't recommended fluoride in 35 years.
I love hearing that.
Yeah. But I think you have to support your body at the same time, but then find a dentist that's really taking a holistic approach. They're using biocompatible materials. If they are extracting teeth, something you always want to ask for is to make sure they're removing the periodontal ligament. Most dentists don't see the harm and just leaving it in there, but that's like leaving dead tissue in the body. So our dad compares like doing a root canal. You go in, you're just scooping out the middle, pulling it out and plugging it with some gutta percha, which is like what they put in golf balls, which is disgusting. But his analogy is if you had gangrene in your big toe, would you core out the middle and just shove some plastic putty in there and let it be? You would never do that. So why are we doing that in dentistry? Doesn't make sense. So having root canals out, periodontal ligaments removed. But you got to find a good dentist. There are a handful in the U.S. Our dad's in Maryland. I mean, he gets people that fly in from all over the country.
Yeah, what is your dad's name? Is he taking patients still?
Yeah,
he is.
Dr. Gene Sambataro. He's in Ellicott City,
fantastic.
Maryland.
Oh, I'm going to start because I'm in Maryland too. I'm going to start referring some people to him.
You're in Maryland?
Hey,
I'm in Annapolis.
Maryland.
Yeah, Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I probably should have connected that when we were messaging. I'm in Maryland.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
so
not
cool.
too far.
Hometown.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm excited.
Really close.
We're really close. I have like at least 15 patients I can think on the top of my head that I'm going to be sending his way. The people are like, I need a new name for someone. Yeah. So that's great. Well, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it comes up a lot. I mean, I think a lot of my patients with chronic health stuff, it's like, and it doesn't often come up with me at the beginning, but then I'll be like, well, anything else? And they'll say, oh yeah, I've also had, and then they'll launch into this whole dentist like nightmare they've been through. I'm like, oh, we probably should have started with some of that because that sounds like that's all we got to deal with that.
Yeah. Even if they don't report it as traumatic, because maybe they'll tell you that they had infections and had to go back a million times, but some people just go in, get the root canal done, or like wisdom teeth being pulled. That's a problem. But we're told that that's just routine and normal, and maybe you didn't have any issues, but like that's an issue too. So there's also a whole other round of education that we need to do. Like there's a lot of issues with just conventional dental work. So if you've been to the dentist, we want to go over this. Hopefully everyone's
Yeah. It's definitely a big thing. Okay. So what else? we've like covered a lot. We feel like we've covered a lot of different things. We were talking before about like what to focus on. And we're like, this is a big topic. There's so many different ways we could take this. And we'll probably have to do another episode at some point. But as you can see, there's so many cool things that biohacking can kind of like help you with, right? And I mean, what else? Let's say if someone's listening and they're like, ooh, okay, I want to start like, I think we talked a little bit about some of the different biohacking ways or things that you can do. But if someone wants to learn more about it, like what are some of the resources you guys offer if people want to like get into this a little bit more?
Yeah. Maybe some quantification, Renee, wearables.
Oh my gosh. Can you tell we're sisters? We're always on the same page.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, so I would say the data quantification is half of the biohacking world, right? You can't hack what you don't track. And just tracking and bringing that awareness to what's going on, like just that alone can be huge. So we always recommend someone getting into biohacking, like pick one tracker. And for women, that could just be literally tracking your menstrual cycle on an app on your phone, can be that. It could be something like an Oura ring or a Whoop band or a BioStrap, but pick one thing and just start to really see what's happening with your sleep, your stress, your activity. And then from there, start to implement maybe just one thing and see how does that affect it, right? And so these like N of 1 experiments are really great. And actually our friend Kyle created this app called through Quantified Collective. It's the N of 1 experiment app. So you can actually sync it to whatever data tracker you're using, and you can really start to pinpoint different things. So it'll like give you a full report like, oh, when you take melatonin, your deep sleep always increases by 2% or something. It can really so that's more the objective data, which is great. Lauren's really big on the subjective data. I think you need to find a balance. Lauren, if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I find this especially for women, though. No, I think it's important for everyone. But I think particularly for women, we are caretakers of everyone else before us. And so there's not a lot of deep listening to self. And we all here believe that we have innate intuition and intelligence. So often just slowing down and giving space and time for your body to talk back to you, and then like recording that. Something as simple as journaling. And like, I hate journaling, but like I like putting thoughts on paper. And I think there's easy ways to do that. Or even just like an hour, or even just 5 minutes, like you were mentioning, like put your feet up, take a little break in the afternoon, like 5 minutes of doing nothing, because we're always trying to do something. So less doing and a little bit more of the nothing. So we get that intelligence from inside of ourselves, not just from the data. But I am a data nerd. Like I love lab testing, like really digging into lab work, and also CGMs, looking at blood sugar, because it's not just a tell on how your food is responding in your body, but it tells you how you respond to stress, to exercise, to sleep, to hydration, tells us about your digestion. It literally tells us like almost everything about your health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of those. We don't always drop in there because that can be a lot of data for people. So as Renee said, I think starting more simple, like just tracking your cycle, could be really awesome.
Yeah. It's actually amazing. I'm usually amazed at how many women don't track their cycle. And I treat a lot of hormonal, and like, so when was your last period? And people are like, let me think about that. I was traveling. I'm like, wait, you don't even put it on your phone? Like, it's number one. I'm like, get a period tracking app. It's so important to know. And you can start to predict when it's coming. And like I, for example, I've learned that day 21 of my cycle is my worst day of the cycle. I'm like, I want to just go curl up in a cocoon. It's like, and that's the point of when your progesterone should be at its highest. So I want to just go like be by myself. I try to not schedule social things during that day. It's the day where I'm like, I'm going to say no to most things. I'm not going to exercise too hard, but it's nice to know those things about yourself, but you can really only learn that if you're tracking. Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think we touched on earlier, everyone's biohacking needs are going to be different for, where you are. And it might be different for women, particularly different points in your cycle, different decades of your life. You might need something might be really great for you that first week of your cycle in your 40s. But then, maybe in your 50s, when you stop cycling, that one biohack might not be as beneficial for you. So again, I think the more data, but not too overwhelming data, because I do agree that sometimes data can get too overwhelming, but having something that you can kind of like anchor and be like, okay, yep, I know that's telling me I didn't sleep so well, so maybe I need to back this up. It's nice to have something to help you, stay on track.
Yeah. And I think if we were to create an umbrella for what biohacking is, it's just ways to get to know your physiology better.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Let's get curious.
Yeah, let's get curious. I think that's awesome.
This is funny timing with tracking your cycle. So my temperature just rose. So I know I ovulated yesterday. So I know, okay, in 14 days, I'm going to get my period. And I'm about to go to Europe for 2 weeks. And so I'm going to be jumping around. I'm going to be on planes, trains, ferries, all the things. But now I know exactly which day I'm going to get my period, which I think is nice. Super convenient on vacation. So there's no surprises.
Yeah. It can be great.
It's great. Yeah.
It's really great. Yeah. It's great to know. And yeah, I mean, I have one patient who's really, and she plans her whole life around. She's like, well, I'm not going to take a vacation that weekend because I know I'm going to be really cranky because it's right before, and it's super cool. And whenever her period is a little bit later early, she's pissed because she's like, damn it, I planned this trip around this whole thing. But, keeping her cycle regular is really important to her because she's kind of, which, I think a lot of women are, we're so annoyed by our period or oh, I don't, but it is beautiful as a woman to kind of have this cycle and to have different parts of your, of the cycle where you're like, hey, my energy's really high and I'm going to be super social this week. And then, another week where you might be a little bit more introspective and, a little more tired, whatever it is, you're going to have slight changes, which I think if you can learn to kind of work with that, it's a really cool thing.
It's colorful. Super cool. Yeah. I don't want to be the same person every day. Boring.
No. That's the only constant about being female is change. It's, that's our only constant is we constantly change. And I feel like once you embrace that as a woman, you're like, all right, I can get down with all this.
Oh yeah.
We deal with a lot of change.
Yeah. I would say the other benefit really is as a female is it kind of takes away a lot of the guilt and the shame that we often have for feeling tired or feeling bad or being knocked down. When we understand the hormones, it's oh, of course I feel that way. And that's okay. You said around when your progesterone should be high is your worst day. My day 26 is the worst because my immune system is always down. And if I don't listen to my body, I get sick. And I know that now about my body. And that's cool because now I can make better choices.
Yeah. 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 It's really cool. Sorry, Renee, what we were saying, we had a little bit of a crossover. Say that again.
Oh yeah. Similar. So those last few days, I just do better with more carbs. So more rest, more carbs, which seems maybe confusing for women. Wait, what? Less exercise and more carbs? But the last 5 days. But
it's what your body needs.
That's what I need. Yeah.
And it's usually what you're craving anyways. I mean, most women will say, I crave carbs more the week before my cycle. And when you kind of give your body, I recently, this past cycle, I had the worst PMS I've had in probably 3 years. But I didn't listen to myself. I just started doing F45, which is a great workout, but I did it every day for 3 weeks, which is not listening to anything I ever tell anyone. So I didn't take a day off and I was eating a ton of protein and my cycle was oh, hell no, you are not, this is not good for you. So okay, I'm going to go back to my taking it easy the week before and eating more carbs next cycle because it was bad. But it was just, I think it's funny to for me to sometimes get that reminder oh yeah, what I practice really works, or what I teach really works. I need to make sure I practice it. And to look at, to look at your body as, I always say this, your body's just giving you information with symptoms. All your symptoms are just information on how to take care of it better. And when you listen, you can learn a lot on how to make your body really function well.
Yeah. 1,000% more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. You guys are awesome. Where can people find you to learn more about your work and everything you guys do? What's the best place?
Yeah, so we have a collective website, thebiohackerbabes.com, and that is the title of our podcasts, Biohacker Babes, and we release every Monday. And then we each have our own personal work. My website is laurensambataro.com. And we have a Biohacker Babes Instagram, and then I have my personal Instagram. If you have show notes, we'll put it there. And then reneebelz.com is her website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for listening. And I will see everyone next week.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to connect with me on social media and leave a rating and/or a review. This helps grow the show so more people have access to this knowledge that leads to empowered healing. Love and light, and see you next week.